Hello and welcome to this Oak Tree English video on the writing exam for ESOL Level 2 with City and Guilds. The writing exam is in 3 parts. First, you're tested on your Spag. Then there are 2 free writing tasks. In this video, we're going to look at each area and I will tell you how you are assessed. You have 3 hours to do all of this. First, we have the Spag part of the exam. Spag stands for spelling, punctuation and grammar. These are tested in 6 activities. The first 3 are just like level 1. The last 3 are perhaps a little more challenging. First, you're tested on punctuation, including capital letters. You'll be given a short text and told how many capital letters and punctuation marks are missing. You have to put them in. For example, the exam is fun, exciting and interesting according to Matt. Well, capital T for the because it's the beginning of the sentence. Fun, comma, exciting because it's a list of adjectives, but not the last one because it's separated by and. Fun, exciting and interesting, unless you want to start talking about the Oxford comma and then all bets are off. According to Matt. Matt is a person, is a proper noun and therefore has a capital M. And of course you finish it with a full stop. There you go. Simple and straightforward. Finally, you will have to identify why a paragraph has been put in. Now here, I have a top tip. Paragraphs are started to show a change in topic, place, time, or person. Top tip. The second question asks you to identify and correct misspelt words. I recommend watching my spelling video to help with this part because the chosen words are likely to be homophones or doubled letters or silent letters or irregular plurals or past tenses. For example, practice is an S, not a Z, because we're British, but is also not a C because it's a verb, not a noun. Practice, if it ends in ice, it's a noun, like ice is a noun. If it ends in ISE, it's a verb. Spelling, of course, you've got a double E there for making it spieling instead of doubling the L. So you've got the wrong letter doubled there. Strategies, well, you know about this. With a plural, with a Y, you add IES. Strategies. With a common, of course, common mistakes, double M and ON, not UN, obviously. Common. Mistakes, and this is a silly one, a triple letter. I don't think there are any triple letters in the English language. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize. So mistakes is spelled like that. Okay. These are the types of spelling mistakes that you would get in the exam. You will have a whole paragraph to mark, and you just go through it and make sure you got the right spelling. The next exercise is a word selection exercise. So you're given a sentence with 3 options, or a text, it could be a paragraph, with 3 options to fill a particular space. For example, here we go. Oak Tree English teaches, taught or teaching English on, in or at YouTube. These are some of the things that often get tested. Prepositions, tenses, adverbs, things which often get confused. So Oak Tree English, of course, teaches English on YouTube. Okay. Exercise 4 is about making sentences. So you'll be given a jumble of words. There they are. And you have to organize them into statements or questions. You can practice for this by understanding how simple sentences are constructed. For example, this one, if you put it together, you would come out with, you've got forget, invert, questions, don't, to, and subject in auxiliary the, and that would come out as don't forget to invert the subject and auxiliary in questions. Hopefully that will remind you to invert the subject and auxiliary in a question. Yes, just practicing sentence formulation will prepare you for that well. The next one, they'll test your ability to follow discourse markers and complete complex sentences. You'll be given a starting phrase like from my point of view or if I were you, and you'll have to complete it with a rational and grammatically correct sentence. My strong advice here is to make it easy on yourself and keep it simple, student. So you could complete if I were you with if I were you, I would watch oak tree English videos every day. Notice I've split every and day up. That's 2 words because it is not the same as every day. It's getting closer, going faster than a roller coaster. Never a wrong time for some Buddy Holly there. Okay, the last exercise in this part asks you to write 6 sentences using specific phrasal verbs. Remember that phrasal verbs often have figurative and literal meanings, and that the order of words can affect meaning. For example, the plane took off on time, but it was too hot, so I took my jumper off. But you can't take a plane off unless you're wearing it. And your jumper can't take off unless you're throwing it. But you can take off your jumper. If you find this a little confusing, then I recommend studying up on some phrasal verbs. Here again, it is crucial to keep it simple, students. Parts 2 and 3 are both writing tasks. You may be asked to write a letter or email or a short story or an article or a blog. In each case, you'll have to work out who the audience is. You can do this on a matrix of tone and style. The tone is formal or informal. The style is personal to impersonal. So, for example, a letter is always personal. That is, it's written from a person to a person. But can be informal to a friend or formal to a company or your bank manager. An article is always impersonal. That is, it's written to a general audience and is usually informal, depending on where it's published. Financial Times might be more formal. The Sun, well, all bets are off, frankly. When you can know who the audience is, you can begin to plan for this. And I suggest, gimme 5. You can plan to write in 5 parts. And this works with both planning a paragraph and planning the whole piece of writing. You start with an introduction. In a paragraph, that's a topic sentence, usually saying the reason for writing. Then you can make the main points you're asked for in the question. That would be point 1, point 2, and point 3. And then, of course, finally, end with a concluding paragraph. This model also works when planning to write a paragraph. Don't forget to frame a letter or email with appropriate greetings and signatures. You are marked on having produced a plan, and you can fail the whole exam if you don't. So this is a very important step not to miss. What else are you marked on? I'm glad you asked. As well as getting 1 mark, 1 essential mark, for producing a plan, which shows introduction, main body and conclusion, activities 2 and 3 are marked on 6 criteria. You're given a task with 4 points to write about. For example, write about a place to visit in the UK. Where the place is, what you like about it, what there is to do there, how to find out more. That sort of thing. Remember, you will not be marked on the accuracy of the information, only the quality of your writing. So, if you want to write that there is a roller coaster that goes over, under and through Stonehenge, it won't lose you any marks. It might be a bit silly, but it won't lose you any marks. So what will you be marked on? Well, you're marked on your content. Make sure you write about each point that you've been asked to. You have to do what it says on the tin. You may also be asked for a blog, an article or a letter, so make sure your layout is consistent with the type of writing you've been asked for. I have videos on individual types of writing. You should aim to write about a page, organised into short but clear paragraphs. I have a video on paragraphs too. Now, you're also marked on grammar. That is, you're marked on producing simple, compound and complex sentences. That is, a simple sentence is 1 independent clause. A compound sentence are 2 independent clauses joined together with and or but. A complex sentence is where you've got 1 independent clause and a dependent clause clinging onto it. You can normally recognize a conditional sentence is by definition a complex sentence, but also anything that has because in it is a causative complex sentence. So please use these. Use all 3 types. And by the way, in case that was too quick for you, my paragraphs video also has an explanation of the 3 sorts of sentences. So please do take a look at that. It's quite useful. The full requirements for grammar at level 1 level 2, is on a different video, which I warmly recommend. I will try and remember to link it up above here. Yeah, it's a very useful video. You're also expected to use a range of sentence structures. So try to ensure that you have used simple, compound and complex sentences, but also a range of vocabulary and expressions. So use some of those words that you've learnt in your course that have been particularly useful or particularly interesting and perhaps unusual. You'll be marked on your spelling. Notice that it is common and familiar words that should be spelled correctly. If it's an unusual word, if it's a low frequency word, no one is going to prosecute you for getting that wrong. But just do the best you can. And if you know you're going to use a word that you sometimes find difficult to spell, practice it first. Okay. Punctuation. That will of course include capitalizations, commas, end sentence marks, including the question marks. So be careful with that. You've already practiced this in the Spag part of the exam, but still, it's got to be there. And formality. You'll be tested on the standard of presentation, so write neatly and appropriately. and use your language carefully to make sure you think about who the audience is. A postcard to your mum will not have the same register as a letter to His Majesty the King, God bless him. The key to passing this element is in planning. You have plenty of time to do this. You have an hour for each piece. So take the opportunity and don't be lazy. As I said, you have 1 hour to do each piece of writing. Now, in many places where you have 2-hour lessons, this will mean that you have to do it over 2 class periods. I advise doing the Spag and first piece of writing in the first sitting, then going away and relaxing, deep breaths, then coming back refreshed and prepared for the second piece of writing. You can organise this as you see fit, but please try not to rush it. That won't help anyone. And that's it. 3 activities in 3 hours, testing Spag and free writing. This is probably the end of your ESOL journey. To decide what to do next, I have a useful video on choosing between functional skills or functional skills level 2 or GCSE English. But for this exam, you've got this. Go on and pass that exam, friends. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, please remember to like, share and subscribe, or even support me by becoming a channel member for early access to new videos.